All right, and we are live. Welcome to JLSComics. This is Jesse here. This is another edition of my how-to series, and I have another special live chat with you today. I have with me a guest, Justin, who is a managing editor for a really fantastic website called comicbooked.com. But if this is your first time to JLS Comics, welcome. This channel is all about celebrating everything about comic books and everything related to that. So hopefully you are going to enjoy it here. But Justin, you want to introduce yourself, let people know who you are, and feel free to plug anything you got to plug. So.
Oh, man. Okay. Hey, everybody. Justin, I'm the managing editor over at comicbook.com, like Jesse said. Been with the website for, I want to say about 2 years or so at this point. Kind of got into that. Also run Exile State Comics channel here on YouTube. Reviews, things of that sort. Hauls. Everybody's got to do a haul, right?
We all do hauls.
Yep. Also, a contributing writer for comicfrontline.com. Only got one thing up there, but I should have more up there soon for them. That was awesome to join them also.
Very cool.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. So that's pretty much. Also, I'm a part of the Comic Cabal podcast.
Oh, wow.
You gotta think of everything that you actually do through the week. It's kind of crazy. But that comes out like Tuesday or Wednesday every week. We kind of record that podcast on Monday night, just kind of going over weekly topics and things like that.
Very cool. It's funny you mentioned that. I did a podcast yesterday, actually, for a couple. It was called Two Nerds and a Joke. They broadcast. They're on Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud. That was a lot of fun, and I got to plug the website as well. So
awesome.
Throw that in there. So that was fun. But this has been a pretty fun weekend. First couple of things I wanted to talk to you about just briefly would be Free Comic Book Day, which was yesterday. Did you get a chance to go to that? Did you pick up any of the free ones, or did you buy any?
Yep. So my shop opens at 11. So I got there at 9:30 and got in line.
Oh wow. Got there right early.
Yeah. I knew because I've gone the last 2 years. So last year I knew I got there like an hour before, and I knew how far I was backed up from the door.
Right.
So I got there, like I said, at 9:30. And was really close when they actually opened at 11. I was in the first group that got to go in, so that was awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a early person's game with that. You got to get there early. I know they have a limited amount of books, so the earlier you get there, the better chance you have of you actually getting the ones you want to pick. So
exactly. Yeah. Last year there was a book that I wanted, and it was gone. Like it went like 3 or 4 people before me. They were out.
I was like, no.
I'm like, no. So, but yeah, my shop limits everybody to like 3 books. So,
3? Okay.
So it depends on where you go, how many books you can get, and there's you can always hit multiple shops. That's a lot of people do that. They hit multiple.
That's what I did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. How many did you get to? A limit. One shop had a limit of 4, and they would throw in a mystery book. And the mystery book was it ended up being a book from a previous Free Comic Book Day. For example, I got one. I have them here. It was, I think, from 2 years ago, the Infinity. Remember the Hickman mini?
Yeah.
So they threw in the free comic for that, and things like that. And then I went to another shop. I don't have it in this stack. Anyways, I went to another shop where they had a limit of 5. So I got a couple there. But good strategy. I brought along a couple friends.
Nice.
So they have their own limits, right? So, and they don't collect. So, whatever they picked for their books, for their limit, ultimately went into my stack at the end. So was able to get a few more that way. So it worked.
I took my nephew, but he got books he wanted. So
okay, there you go. Hopefully you get the same ones, or at least he'll let you read them at some point, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The thing about it is, if in the coming weeks there will be a long box near the counter at my shop with those books, so you can still get them later.
Yeah, whatever's left over, they'll be trying to give away for a while. They order a ton of those books, so
But it's
Cool.
really cool. Like my shop, they have like cosplayers out there doing stuff, and they had like a little bake sale going on, and all this kind of crazy stuff. Plus, they had like 10 or 15 creators and artists in there signing books and stuff. Like Mark Bagley was there.
Oh wow, okay, cool. We had one shop I went to was kind of broken up into. They have their main shop, and then they have the satellite location, which is right next door. Basically, it's a gaming satellite, so it's all the tabletop gaming, and they have a lot of other figures, and you can buy the card packs and stuff there.
Right.
So they had it broken up where you would go in there, and they would have like a little card, and you would pick which of the books you wanted. So they would have like a number. So like Street Fighter would be like number 20, so you'd write 20 on the card. But to get up to that counter, it was sort of like a gauntlet. That's where all the artists and the local creators were. They didn't have any big names, like a Mark Bagley or anything like that. It was all local artists and creators and people there. So you would walk by their tables and snake through, and then get to where you would sign up for the book. So I thought that was pretty cool. A lot of neat artwork. They had everything from people who would like sew and knit things, canvas, and then people that were doing blank sketch drawings and stuff. And then a couple people have actually made their own book. A couple of their own books, some local creators. Nice. So I reached out to them, and one of them's actually sending me a PDF. So I'm going to be doing a review on that one pretty soon. So I thought that was really cool. So like one of the good things about it is not only do you get like a good stack of free books, right? You get to network. You get to reach out and like be part of that community, whether it's here on YouTube and we talk about it, or bringing together your local community. So all in all, really good event.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's in everybody's community, there's so much going on that you don't even know about. There's so many, like there's a guy 3 blocks over who's writing a comic book. You don't know anything about it until you go to something like this. So yours sounded really cool. Yours sounded like it was a mini convention, right there at the shop and everything.
Yeah, it almost was like an in-store convention. It was pretty cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. So the other thing that happened this weekend, big news, was the movie Captain America: Civil War. Right? Did you get a chance to see it?
I did. I saw it last night.
No spoilers, but what'd you think?
Oh, I liked it.
You liked it? Okay, good. I haven't seen it. I haven't had a chance to see it. Unfortunately, I'm trying to stay away from as much as I can. It's really difficult with spoilers. So hopefully I'll get to see it soon. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I'll try to. What can I say without kind of spoiling anything? Well, I mean, what you see in the trailer is like a very small percentage of the movie. I'll say that there's so much story there, and how everything's all generated together and how it works out. It's right. It was done really, really well.
Okay, cool. Good. Didn't give anything away there, so that's good.
Okay.
All right. So let's get on to the next topic here. So obviously, managing editor for comicbook.com, which is a fantastic website. It's got a lot of news, reviews, convention coverage, a whole runs the gamut of different topics, comic book, and that genre related. So we talked about Free Comic Book Day and Captain America: Civil War. Can you talk a little bit about how that would sort of translate into content for the website?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, the easiest one is just a straight review, spoiler or non-spoiler. Somebody could write that up for the site, have it up there. You can always link in trailers and things like that. Right. Beyond that, you can go further than that. You can contrast the movie versus the actual event. Things like that. People love that. You could and then theorize everything that happened in the movie and what that's going to translate into the next Avengers movies. Things of that sort. Okay.
Yeah, I love reading things like that. Go into the websites and reading not only just the review, but that speculation about what does this mean for the future. How is that going to lead into something coming up for the next movie. So those are really cool articles to read. So it's nice to hear you say you have those. the next thing, you are working for a website, and I'm very curious about this myself. What is, I guess, what is a managing editor? It sounds like an awesome, like you sit back with a cigar on your couch, like the Mad Men type of thing, big title. But what exactly does a managing editor do? So I guess like kind of walk us through a typical day for you.
All right. Well, I think the image you have in your head, that's editor-in-chief.
Okay.
Managing editor is a little bit more of the actual nuts and bolts of the website. As far as I'm reviewing all of the articles before they go up. I'm making any changes that need to be made, or throwing them back if something's just got to be completely changed, which is super rare. We have a really good group of writers over there, so everything runs pretty smooth. It's just, and then a lot of follow up with people that fall off and things like that, but yeah, and then the biggest thing is you're trying to do as a managing editor is you're making sure that you have enough content to keep the site moving, and you gotta look, the bad part of it is you are looking over at stats and things like that. And you got to have a certain number of articles go up each day to stay relevant on certain search engines and things like that. So that can be a challenge if you run into a drought of topics coming in. All of a sudden, then you have to start writing.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't have a choice. If there's something lacking, it's the managing editor's job to make sure that you fill in the gaps for the site and keep it moving.
Okay. So do you like proactively reach out to people and say, hey, this just happened. I need an article about this, in the next hour? Or do you, is it usually that people are pretty good about getting those to you themselves?
Yeah, for the most part, people will just go out and they'll already see something and they'll write it. Or, we use a messaging program where myself or the editor-in-chief will send out, like news updates and things like that. Hey, this just happened. Anybody want to write about it? Things like that.
Okay.
Just kind of probing. Plus, then, you try to keep everybody that's writing for the site pumping in a few articles a week. That, and you try to get it to be as diverse as possible. You don't want to post like 6 reviews in a day. You want like a feature. You want a review. You want maybe a cosplay gallery, maybe a video game review or a preview of something new that's coming out. Which is the fun thing about being in this industry is, we'll get hit through the Facebook page. It's the easiest way to contact us if you want, like a book that you're writing or art that you're doing or whatever it is. If you want it to be featured on our site, that's the easiest way to get it done. And so you'll get all this new stuff coming in that you've never heard of, never seen before, and you kind of are able to disseminate that down into the writers to say, hey, this just came out, or this just came in. It's an indie book about the sci-fi craziness. You want to check it out. But you kind of get a feel for your writers and what they like and what they don't like, so you can push it to the right people.
Interesting. Yeah, that must be fascinating, the amount of different content you get that maybe you never would have even thought you would get something like that, but there it is, just showed up in the inbox.
It is, it's overwhelming. I'll say that. You get so many, there are so many indie books trying to get off the ground, or people just with ideas for books and pushing them out. Like, it's insane. We also have but it's also, on the other hand, it's really fun because you get to interact with people in the comic book industry. A couple of weeks ago, we just interviewed Rob Liefeld, which was insane. Really, you're just listening to him talk because the man has so much energy. Whether you like him or don't like him, that man loves comic books. So you can't hate him for that.
Yeah, no, I actually saw that interview. It was on Comic Books YouTube page, right? Yeah. You guys would ask a question, and then he would just take off and go for like 15, 20 minutes. He'd be, talking nonstop. And, like you said, love him or hate him, he's got like this energy about him that's really infectious, and you can't help but be excited with him when he's talking.
It really is. That's the other thing is we're able, because of YouTube, if this was like 1995, none of this would be happening anyway. But because of YouTube, we're able to get these creators on and then push that video out to a broader audience. So maybe like we did Michael Morisi earlier this year, Xander Cannon, Jim Zub, who's now writing crazy stuff for Marvel. Like, so we were talking to him before any of that happened. It was really cool to see his perspective on the industry at that point and now where he's at now. So.
Very cool, yeah. And it must be a sort of, you're saying there's so much content coming, and that's really nice. I'm not going to try to use the word problem, but that's not the right word. That's a nice position to be in, I guess, just that there's so much, content out there, not just the big two, but all these smaller press publishers, all these, individual people with their own projects, Kickstarters, whatever it is, just really want to get it out there. And you just have the perfect platform and a venue for that. That's really fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and it stretches beyond comics to anything pop culture. Like you see this big Batman wall art thing. That's from Wall. They sent it just to get it featured and stuff. So I mean, there's all kinds of just pop culture references that need to be talked about or need to be featured. Just to get it out there to the public.
Right. Yeah, there are so many aspects to it. I tend to kind of narrow focus in on comic books, but there's just, that's just me though. But there's just so much more to it than just that. The statues and the conventions, and the artwork and cosplay, and there's just, like you said, so much to it. It's really fascinating. It's a good time to be a collector. Somehow involved in this industry.
If you've ever been a comic book fan in your life, this is like the amazing age. We won't even say it's golden or silver or whatever. This is just amazing because every month or so you can go to the movies and like relive your childhood, and it's like you're getting to see your comic book heroes in these movies that would have never happened.
Coming to life. Yeah.
So
yeah, I would venture to say it's the golden age of comic books for the cinematic universe. It really is. This is the peak of their popularity, the height of their success.
Oh yeah.
Do you agree with that? Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic.
Okay.
How about that? All right. So basically, let's talk about the website itself. How long has it been around? How did it begin? I'm curious about that. And then if you can talk about it, maybe where you want to take it in the future. Like what's your goal for the next year or so, say?
Gotcha. Well, the site has been around for going on 6 years now. And like I said, I've only been with it for 2, so I'm missing some of the history. But when it first launched, it was, there were probably 3 times the number of writers that we have now, just because the site's changed a couple of times, managing editor-in-chiefs have changed and things like that. So, and life happens. People drop off and move on to other things. We've actually seen a pretty good number of previous writers for the site move on to other projects, or now they're writing novels. Like we have Megan Cube to just put out her novel Crashers. So I mean that's just it's a good jumping off platform. It's a good place for people to kind of get their feet into writing. You know what I'm saying? And branch out. But as far as where I'd like to see the site go, right now we're on an uphill swing. We had some technical issues, is what they were earlier, toward the end of last year, earlier this year. Now we're on an uphill swing, and I'd like to see the site go beyond 100,000 unique hits a month. We're kind of half of that right now, but right now we're pulling together a great group of writers, yourself included, sir, that are generating amazing content. If we keep that going, we'd love to get up to 5 to 10 would be our goal each day of featured articles that get pushed out there. That keeps us in everybody's feed, and whatever social media you're watching. That means every couple hours you see
Right.
something new from us, you know. And that's where you really want to go. We want to be able to compete with the larger ones like comic book resources and things like that. I'd love to be able to see turn enough of a profit so that we could bring on full time and start paying all of our writers full salaries and things like that. That's really where we'd like to go. We'd like to expand this thing. So that would be more of a 5-year plan, I would say, more than just 1 year.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That might, it takes time to kind of get to where a website like the one you mentioned is. They're $1 million, companies.
Well, yeah, they're owned by a company that pushes them.
Yeah.
They've got a financial backer in their pocket.
That's good support to have, right?
Yeah.
But talking about getting content out there, it's not for lack of content these days. Like we were talking, there's so much out there. So I'm sure we'll get there. Just keep on the track it's on. It's
Well, that's the thing too. Is you want quality content. You don't always want to be throwing out junk.
Right.
And certain things just don't get hits. They don't get clicks, and that's the sad truth of it. The independent stuff doesn't get as many hits as a Marvel review of something, but you still want to push that stuff out there because what if you never know what's going to happen if that book takes off. If that company takes off, then you were already with them at the beginning, so you have more access, and that's it's all about building the relationships, especially with the more of the independent studios. Like we interviewed the editor-in-chief of Aftershock Comics, great new company that's coming out. They've only got 7 or 8 books out right now, like Super Zero, which is a fantastic book. But they're bringing in all kinds of talent. Sam Keith works for them. He's got a project coming up. If you're a fan of the Max or any of the stuff he did on Marvel Comics Presents back in the day, so I'm super excited to see what he does with them. So yeah, that's pretty much that.
Wow. And you did an interview recently with it was the Space Goat Productions, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and they had a book yesterday, which I like the cover for. I haven't read it yet, but cool cover. So that's interesting too. You get to reach out to these people, and a week later, a month later, you can actually hold their material in your hand.
Exactly, and you're like, what?
Exactly.
It's amazing. And then
I talked to this guy.
Right, and exactly because you've already got that relationship. Now you can reach out. If somebody likes that book, you can reach out to that company and maybe do like this, a live interview with the artist or the writer of that book, and talk to them and see their thought process on how they came up with that book, things like that.
Right.
And if you're
definitely.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I cut you off. I didn't mean to.
I was just saying, especially if a lot of people are wanting to get into writing comics themselves, and so it's good to get that out there and see the thought process of how they come up with these stories, and have them walk you through the creative process of a book and what goes on behind the scenes that you don't even think about,
Right. Yeah, the creative process and the actual, the business aspect of it as well. There's so much there.
Yeah. That's the business aspect of comics, I think, is the biggest thing that my knowledge has expanded on in the last 2 years. how it all kind of works.
Yeah, peel back the curtain, right? You get to see the man behind the curtain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly what book sales translate to as far as behind the scenes of jobs and promotions for titles and things like that, which is the promotion department for some of these studios is insane just in itself of how they're trying to get the word out about these books and the money that's to get the word out,
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, so we've talked about your time as a managing editor, your time with comicbook.com. We talked about the website itself, but kind of curious about maybe a little bit before that. So how did you I'm curious about your comic book collecting experience or your history, and then how did you get into the editorial and the managing editor of a website position? Like what led up to that?
Okay, we'll have to go way back in time to the late to the late 80s when I started collecting. However old I was at that point. But that started with just a convenience store near my house that had a spinner rack. As most comic book collections start, it started with a spinner rack. And I'm sure it was like Amazing Spider-Man, I'm sure that was the gateway. And then it evolved to the great people at Walmart used to carry like full series. Like you could go in there and get like 5 books in this pack, and it would be like a story arc or whatever for super cheap. That's where I found Daredevil.
Oh, yeah.
And that's my man. I'm a Daredevil fan.
Daredevil, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So that evolved. The comic book shop I go to now was the shop I went to back then. My parents and my sister were super nice. They'd take me there and, wait in the car for an hour while I'm in there looking at stuff or whatever. And then, let's see, and this was, I fell in and was hardcore collecting, I guess, when Image hit. So when Image first came out with Spawn and Wildcats and Stormwatch back there, I was in. I was like, this is amazing. So I probably dropped down. I was getting everything Image and like Batman, Daredevil, and Thor. I think were like that was what I was getting for a few years. But then I want to say toward the end of high school, beginning of college, another shop I was going to closed down, and there was some weird stuff that happened. So I just kind of fell out of comics for a while. Probably a good 10 years, where I just didn't really pick up anything, but somehow still managed to pick up the Batman Hush run and All-Star Batman and Robin, The Boy Wonder. Like I somehow went to the comic book shop and was able to get those throughout that time where I wasn't collecting. So
interesting.
I guess I was never really out. You know what I'm saying?
You kind of had one foot in the door the whole time. Right?
Yeah. I was
or at least a toe.
Keeping the seat warm.
Yeah.
But then, let's see, what was it about? I don't know, it was probably up until about 2012 before I got back into it, really. And then that was, in part, a big thing, thanks to comic book reviewers on YouTube. Because I was, of course, it started with Comic Book Girl 19 for whatever reason. When she actually reviewed comic books, she doesn't really do comic books that much anymore. But
right.
So I found her, and then it was like Comic Uno, and then everybody on Comic Frontline, which then was like Dark Avenger, I think, Inc. And it just kind of progressed from that to the point where I was like, all right, fine, I got to go get some books. So I went in the store and, was looking around, didn't really know what I was wanting. And I saw Brett Booth at that time was doing Nightwing. This was right after the New 52 started.
Okay. So
Brett Booth's always been one of my favorite artists. He did Stormwatch back in the day, which is like one of the first like 20 issues of Stormwatch is one of my favorite runs. Maybe
you're talking about when it was Image or when it went over to DC?
No, not DC.
Okay.
I'm talking about the original team.
Yeah.
1992. That volume.
Okay.
Oh man, the DC stuff is butchery. It's horrible. I have a whole rant video just about that subject. Didn't like it. But then, as that progressed, I started doing YouTube videos. I kind of wanted to get into that, just doing reviews. I think my first ever YouTube video, was a review of Lumberjanes #1. It was fun. It was something to read. It just came out. I don't know why. A lot of people at that time it was just being pushed a lot because it was just coming out. And I was like, I'll pick it up and read it and see what it's about. It was kind of fun.
See what all the hoopla is about.
Yeah, I only ever got issue 1. It wasn't a book for me, but it was a fun little read. But
Yeah.
then that kind of progressed, and along that same time, I was just wanting to do more. I was wanting to contribute more in some way, something, and I found comic books, and I started talking to them. Uh, I was talking to the managing editor, who's still the the editor in chief, who's still editor in chief now, and was just kind of talking to him about openings and things like that. And happened, there was one at that time, so kind of joined them. Started just writing comic book stuff, anything that was coming up, or news articles, or, whatever they were handy. Kind of like what you're doing now, for us.
Right.
But and then there was some the executive team went through some changes. Somebody left, whatnot. So the managing editor position kind of opened up, and at that point, Aaron, the editor over there, and I started. We had a pretty good relationship. We'd been doing YouTube videos for a while together on the comic books YouTube site. So that's kind of how it led into that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, it seems like we have a sort of similar process that we went through over time. I started collecting when I was, I'd say, like 5 years old, and I've said this, in previous videos or some, other chats, where I still remember that first book that I got that kind of it drew me in, and that was kind of like the rest is history, so to speak. After that, it was West Coast Avengers Annual #2. It was a follow-up to two-part. Yeah, it was. I didn't get it off the rack. I got it from an uncle. But it was a two-part follow-up to Contest of Champions, the original. That was like a 3-part series, and then after like 3 or 4 years, they came out with like the follow-up for it, which was the West Coast Avengers Annual, and then there was an Avengers Annual too, as well. I mean, and there was a trade that came out. It was a collected version of it. They kind of explained. I always wondered why there was that gap in it, but finally explained that. But then, moving along through my timeline, I fell off as well for a while, around like 1999, 2000 sort of time frame.
Same time.
Moves and life and everything happens. But like you said, it was still a book that I ended up picking up. I was in a Newbury Comics in Boston, Massachusetts, and there was I think it was RoboCop that was like done by Frank Miller, and it was in a polybag. And it had like a certain COA in the back of it and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that looks cool, might as well pick it up. So I had that one book for a while, and that was my collection. And then, a few years back, I ended up, getting back into it again with, we're talking about the movies and just being the height of their popularity these days. And, one of the things with, reading articles on websites and, speculation and what might happen and how does it tie into the books. It kind of drew me back into the whole, collecting aspect of it. So that's another huge benefit of, being part of a website and putting out that content is you never know who's going to come back or who, something you write might spark a fire for them to start their whole world of collecting, so to speak. So it's pretty fascinating in that respect. It was actually the death of Wolverine that brought me back. I used to, like you were saying with the 90s, I was big with the X-Men, the one of the best-selling #1s of all time, right? That X-Men #1. Yep. Then there was the Spider-Mans, all the Image stuff. And of course, Wolverine was. Yeah, exactly. But it was Wolverine was one of those big characters that I loved back then. So I'm reading suddenly 15 years later, what, they're gonna kill him? So I had to go buy that mini and find out what's happening there. And then the rest is history. I've been collecting ever since. So
do you still have
sort of similar? I don't. When I fell, when I had to stop collecting, all those years back, I ended up selling it to a shop in outside of Massachusetts. But it kind of it was fun going back and kind of recollecting those and finding them again and then rediscovering those old stories. So Yes, it sucks that I didn't keep them because it would have been awesome to have those originals. There was that first appearance of Darkseid, that Jim Olsen book that everybody's trying to get now. I had that book. It was given to me for free. So as an example, I had like some really good keys and stuff back then. But but at the same time, cool to go back and have an excuse to buy them again and hunt them down.
I'm the exact same way. I think I sold my original collection in 2004, 2003. You know, it was one of those things where I was moving apartments, and it was just like, I don't do anything with these. Let's see if I can. Because originally I was just gonna sell Captain America like 101 through 109. I was posted those up, and the guy contacted me that bought those and was like, "Hey, do you have anything else?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got like 7 or 8 long boxes." And he came and bought everything. So yeah, I'm doing the same thing of getting new stuff and getting stuff I used to have or things that I never knew I wanted. And to me, really, getting the older stuff or things I used to have, things like that, is a little bit more exciting than the new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah.
Just to have it.
Exactly, right. It might have been a book that you found in like a 50-cent bin or something. It doesn't have to be like a $200 key, but just recapturing those that imagination that we had when we first read it, or those feelings of like I don't know what, but
no,
I agree with that.
The book for me like that is Amazing Spider-Man 366, which really is not a big book in any way whatsoever. But that book is just always stuck with me. Like what happens in that book, like that's just one of my favorite single issue comic books of all time, for whatever reason.
Right. Yeah, I love the first probably Spawn. I love, like, I had the first 50 of that, Witchblade, of course, I had that too. But I think for me it was I'm gonna say X-Men, the early X-Men that I mentioned. Not valuable at all, but just I remember reading those and just the story, and Magneto, and he had his own moon planet basically. I forget what it was called, but Avalon, I think.
Asteroid M, wasn't it?
No, yeah. No, Asteroid M was a different one.
Yeah.
That got destroyed, right? Yeah, but so I think that was for me. Like I said, not particularly valuable at all, but just I remember reading it and loving it, and it stayed with me since.
Oh yeah, no. I think I probably picked up some X-Men stuff, but I remember when the X-Men animated series came out, like I knew those characters, but I think at that point I started going back, and then I was collecting X-Men all through Age of Apocalypse. That was fun.
Yeah.
Which of course my favorite.
Have you read?
Huh?
Yeah. So have you read the new volume of X-Men 92 at all? It's up to issue 3.
I got 1 and 2, and they changed the character, and I was done with the book.
Yep. Pretty much the same. They're not a fan. Not a fan. I did like the Secret Wars mini, but this one they have the same writer, but they changed the artist. But to me, oh, there you go. Yep. Yeah. They're trying to recapture it. The reason I brought it up, you mentioned the animated series. They're trying to recapture our generation, right? That show or that book that I mentioned, the X-Men #1 from back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. But back then, even with the book, there was a bit of I want to use the word sophistication with it. Some of the what they used and the concepts and the morality behind it were deep, and you were able to kind of get attached to it in that way. But with this new volume, I really feel like it's really superficial, and they're trying to cater to us, because we're the ones who remember that. Yep. But the way the writing is and the art is just very juvenile, and it doesn't click for me. It's like two different planes almost.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I got the first issue of it and was really, really hopeful. And then I was like, it wasn't really that great. And was hoping the issue 2 was going to launch the story. And it was But yeah, the characters just aren't as deep. I don't think the way they're written, the team doesn't work that well together.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it seems very juvenile to me.
Yeah.
That's the word that comes to mind. I really wanted it to be good. I really did, but no, got off the pull list.
Yep.
So.
Gone. Yeah,
Right.
three did come out this past week on the 4th, right?
Yeah, and apparently it's, I think, Jubilee. She becomes like a vampire.
Yep, that's why that was the straw that broke the back right there for me. No. And I know that happened in regular continuity, but it doesn't need to happen in X-Men '92.
Exactly.
Like, she needs to be fun, wanting to go to the mall all the time. That's all we need Jubilee to do in that book.
Yeah, exactly. Not be like a dark and brooding vampire.
No, that's not Jubilee.
Jubilee? No. No. So we've talked about, you love Daredevil. We talked about some of the books that you used to collect. What are you into these days? More one of the big two? Do you go more indie? Any particular titles that when it comes out, you just you don't care what the story is, you just see it in the previews and you automatically have to get it?
Yeah, I'm a really big fan of Saga. Really loved it.
Good story.
Yeah, it's just the way it's written and everything. Like, it's a book the original concept was a book that cannot be adapted to film or TV.
Yeah, right.
It's so out there. There's so much going on. You just couldn't do it. So really digging that. More recently, like Tokyo Ghost. I'll kind of start with some of the indies that are like Tokyo Ghost. Rick Remender's killing that book.
Yeah.
Not too distant future kind of sci-fi book. And like I said, great art. But and then DC, it's like the Bat titles mainly.
Yep. Okay.
Batman Detective Comics, things like that. I was on the Flash for a while just because Brett Booth was doing the art. Dan Jensen was writing that, and I've got the opportunity to meet him twice. That was really cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But it largely it's Marvel, and it's so many Marvel books because Extraordinary X-Men's great. I'm liking Uncanny X-Men. Of course, anything Daredevil's in, I pick up. We've got all the 2 stuff coming up, which has been fun. And I liked Secret Wars, even though it was delayed, and then they, made an extra book out of it. It was fun. I kind of wish with all the minis I had just waited and got them in trade.
Yeah.
Because now all the trades of those are out, and that would be way easier. But yeah, and we take up this. I have all the long boxes over here. It's great, long and short boxes. Like the collection I sold in '04 is half the size of what I've got now in the last couple of years. It's ridiculous. What else? Like Lady Mechanica, the book you just picked up, right?
Very cool. Yeah.
Very cool book. I've been a fan of Joe Benitez. He started back in Image Days, was doing Weapon Zero for Top Cow, which was fantastic.
Mark Silvestri?
Yeah, that's Mark Silvestri's company.
Okay.
I don't remember if he had anything to do with the writing of that book, but it was just a book underneath his brand and image.
Right. Yeah, and I know he was attached to the book somehow. I don't know if he was on the creative aspect of it or he just owned that what do they call it? Imprint of Marvel?
Yep. I'm trying to think.
Or not Marvel.
But yeah, Image. Whatever. But I mean, okay. How about the thing in comics now that, and it's not even comics per se, it's comic book fans who want to complain about the movies and the comics not matching up and things like that.
Right.
Which, for me, that side of it should be that shouldn't bother anybody that the movies are different from books. It shouldn't. If you're a comic book fan and you know that there's always an Earth 2 version of somebody coming in, or there's a multiverse and there's all these different planets where all the stuff happens, but it's just a little bit different. To me, like the cinematic universe, it's just happening on Earth 43 or whatever.
Right.
You know? So it's
Different
not
multiverse.
the main continuity, it's over there.
Right.
So if it's different,
Yeah,
it's okay as long as the story's still good.
Yeah, exactly. As long as the story is good, right? You know,
Mhm.
take the money. You know, it's interesting. You know, they have the TV show characters different than the movie characters, right? Two different Flashes, but they're going with the multiverse route there. So,
Yeah. And they've
kind of explains that.
they've kind of already played into that and explained it a little bit with that crossover between the Flash and Supergirl.
Right. Yeah.
They're on a different world, so that right there set the boundary of, okay, the CW stuff is not connected to the movieverse in any way.
Right. Exactly. Question for you: Do you think that CW will pick up Supergirl, or do you think it will stay with CBS?
Well, it got renewed on CBS, so
Oh, did it? Oh.
yeah, season 2's good to go. So,
Okay, well, I guess that answers that question.
yeah, I see them. If say like season 3 or 4, and they're thinking about canceling it, I could see them moving her over or adding her character to like one of the teams. Like they could do a Legion show and move her over to that.
Right.
I've liked this
Okay, cool.
so far.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, it's been good.
I think The Flash is like my favorite comic book TV show right now. Not counting
I
Daredevil.
have to. Yeah, right. Admittedly, I'm not caught up on Flash. I need to go back, and you know, I started watching a while back, and that first season for me just really didn't do it. But from everything I hear, it really picks up after that. You know, when I was watching it, it was he was a kid running on a track trying to figure out how fast he was. I'm like that. I know Flash runs faster than that, you know. But I did watch the crossover that they recently did, and that was really cool. So I watched both the Flash and all the episodes really. So I could tell from that how different it is than that first season, I guess, from when I watched it. So I need to go give it another chance. I hear great things about it.
It gets a little darker, but I like, because we had like 2 seasons of Arrow before the Flash started, and Arrow was just so dark. So like it was Batman but Green Arrow. I mean, it really was. And then the Flash came out, and that was just a lighter, more fun show. So,
Right.
And then it's evolved, and then now it's a little bit darker, but they still keep some of the humor. Yeah.
It's good to have humor. It breaks the tension. It can't be tense all the time. But with Arrow, I like it and I don't at the same time.
Yep.
I don't know how to describe it. It can be a bit like soap opera-y at times.
Oh yeah.
But when they do have action, it can be kind of cool. Like, of course, they're limited to the budget for a TV show, but
Yeah, and they're doing so many. Yeah, that was my thing. At this point with Arrow, I just think I'm so invested because I've watched them all that I'm just gonna stick with it and see how it plays out. But the same way, like the storylines could be a little bit stronger here or there. Like I don't know. It's still a good show, but it's by no means my favorite anymore.
Right. It's not one of those like, oh, it's on tonight, I gotta watch it. It's like, it'll be on the DVR. I can catch it later in the week.
Yeah, I'll watch it tomorrow morning or something. But that's
exactly. Yeah.
That's kind of how I do all of them. I don't think I watch any of them live. I just watch them later. That's why I don't do reviews, because I'm watching it like a day or 2 later.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, that's smart, assuming you can stay away from the spoilers, but then you get to skip all the, commercials and all the outside parts. You can just get right to the content.
Exactly.
Right.
Way better.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that you watched Daredevil, right?
Yes.
Of course you did.
Yeah. Season 1 and 2.
You looking forward
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
You looking forward to the upcoming shows for Netflix?
Oh yeah, I think Jessica Jones was great. Yeah, I really like that one. I'm a big David Tennant fan from his time on Doctor Who anyway. So I was like, how's he going to be a villain? That's going to be crazy. But yeah, so I really like Jessica Jones. Of course, the first season of Daredevil, to me as a Daredevil fan, and not talking about the movie we had, Ben Affleck, but yeah, the director cuts better, but it's still not what it should be. But yeah, the first season was great, just how it went through, and then boom, the second season we got the Punisher coming in, we got Elektra and how that's going to tie in. I can see like what storylines they're pulling from and like interweaving into the show from the books, where they're kind of starting some of their starting points. Like the first season could easily have been Frank Miller's The Man Without Fear storyline, down to the first black outfit he was wearing. That was straight out of that book,
Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's some of those scenes even in this season we just had that was I was like, that scene is literally, they took the panel from the comic book and plopped it on my screen.
Yep.
I remember it. I used it for a thumbnail when I did my review for it. There was one scene where he was in the hallway and he had I think it was a 357 duct tape to his hand.
Mm-hmm.
But he pointed out in front of him like this, and he had this grimace on his face. And that was the cover of one of the books where it was No More Mr. Nice Guy, right? It was like straight off that cover.
Right.
And there was a bunch of things like that just came right out of the book. It was really cool.
Yeah, like the part where he's got Daredevil chained up to the chimney. Like that scene is straight from a book also,
Right. Yeah, it's amazing how they can do that and to translate that over, and it's going to be different, of course, but it evokes that same imagery and we can pick up on it. It's really fascinating.
And especially the way it ended. Like, I mean, do you want to spoil it since it's been out for a while or not?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
All right.
Wait. Spoiler alert, everybody. Let's give it a few seconds. Pause it. Skip it ahead. Stop it. Whatever you want. Okay.
All right, but okay, I'll try to non-spoiler it as much as possible. With who dies at the end and where they put that body, that leads into like 4 different storylines straight from the book of that character dying and then potentially maybe coming back.
Yeah.
So I was like, yes,
well done.
That's great. And of course, we're getting a Punisher. The Punisher, series was just announced, so Netflix going to go full steam ahead with 10 or 13 episodes of the Punisher, which John Berthal I thought did a great job as the Punisher.
Yeah, and as soon as they showed that disc, I feel like everybody went out and got looking for the first appearance of Micro. Everybody's going out and getting those Punisher keys now.
Yeah, they're all going to be on soon.
Yeah,
but
if you haven't gotten it, go get it.
How much is that book going for now? I wonder. Yeah, but and then so Luke Cage is coming up, which I thought his character was really good, and Jessica Jones. So I'm excited to see how his show is going to work out. And of course, they cast Iron Fist, Danny Rand, so I'm sure he'll show up in Luke Cage at some point before they do his. And then we'll get the Defenders.
Right. Yeah. Ultimately, we'll all be getting the Defenders. It's all leading to that.
Right.
Pretty exciting.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love to see the Defenders show up in like Infinity War Part 2 or something. Like
that would be cool.
Tie them in, because I want Daredevil to be with the Avengers at some point, even though he's not really a member most of the time, but still be good to see.
I mean, give him a helmet, a spacesuit, and you can join Guardians. We can.
Right.
Why not? Thanos had a space helmet. He didn't need one. And of course, this will all translate into content for the website, right?
Oh yeah.
All this upcoming news. Yeah.
Yeah, because upcoming news, just the good example of the Punisher got greenlit for a season. There's an article right there, easy peasy, and then you got in that article you can do like what you like, the speculation of what storylines are they going to pull from, how are they going to go? Is this going to be Punisher Warzone, or are they going to do his origin, even though they've already kind of did his origin in Daredevil, or things like that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot you can do there. There's a lot you can do there. Yeah.
And like I think the next big one to speculate on, I think, would be Guardians of the Galaxy 2, because we're going to get some new characters in that one. So it's going to be, and I don't think they've announced who those characters are yet, so that's going to be fun to see. I think we are going to get to see Peter Quill's dad, though.
I think so, yeah. They've cast some characters that could be the dad. They could play that character, but I did like seeing the little baby Groot in the picture.
Yep.
You notice that up on the shoulder, right? So that should be cool. And yeah, the Infinity is coming out. Infinity, it's right as it is now. Is part 1 and part 2. Did an article right for the website where they're changing the name of it, so they're gonna have 2 different names, and potentially it's 2 separate stories. We don't quite know what they're doing with it, but the Russo brothers actually mentioned that recently, that it's not going to be Infinity Part 1, Infinity Part 2. So, if you want to read about that, if you're watching this, go check that article on comicbook.com.
Yeah, easy.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that, especially with Doctor Strange kind of coming in too. Like the previews for that movie look great.
Oh yeah,
Marvel's version of Inception or something. Just seeing how all that kind of weaves in, and maybe by that time we have the Fantastic Four back at Marvel, so they can use those characters that we need for a story that big that come from the Fantastic Four.
Right. Yeah, hopefully they'll come back and we'll get it right this time, right? Or they'll get it right.
Yeah, we don't even really need the Fantastic Four. We just need all of the characters associated with them, like Silver Surfer and Galactus,
right. Doctor Doom,
like cosmic entities that come from them.
Right. Yeah, when you think galactic space adventure and you think Marvel, you're gonna, in one of those first 2, you're gonna say Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So if that's the direction they're going, they need to be home with Marvel.
Yep, we've got Spider-Man now.
Yep. Very true. So progress there. Yeah. So okay, great. So well, today is Mother's Day. It is, a day when we should all be hanging out with our mothers or giving them a call. So I do want to say happy Mother's Day to my mother, to any of the other mothers out there that might be watching. If it's a future day, you're not watching this live, happy belated Mother's Day to you. And then the nerd in me wants to say happy Mother's Day to Daenerys Targaryen, the mother of dragons. So just want to put that out there. But let me ask you one of the final questions for you. If somebody wanted to write for the website or somehow be a contributing part of it, or we're just interested in learning more about it, how could they get in touch with you, or what would be the process to reach out to the website?
The easiest way would be to just send an email to admin@comicbook.com. Or you can go over to our Facebook page and send us a message there. Either way, just a way we can kind of get and talk to you, kind of gauge your interest and let you know like what we would expect, things like that. If you have a sample writing, that's always good too. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just like write a paragraph of your opinion of something, just so we can see kind of how your thought process works, things like that. That's not required, but we also we'll do a video interview sometimes too, and just kind of talk to the people, kind of do that, because it's easier than going back and forth on email all the time. Plus, a face-to-face with somebody that's going to be working on your website is very important. So that's really the easiest way. Just reach out and say, hey, is there anything available? I would like to write about this, this, and this, or I don't know what I would like to write about, but is it still a possibility? I mean, it's always open. And, anybody can give it a try.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, so if you're watching this, you're probably interested in, comic books, comic book movies, comic book news. So if you think you can write something, feel free to reach out, like you just said. And who knows what might happen. So he's always looking for new talent, right? And new connections. So don't be shy. Don't know what'll happen from it, right? So. But with that being said, any final closing thoughts from you or anything else you want to plug? I know you have your own YouTube page if you want to mention that.
Yeah, I'll mention that again. That's exhauststatecomics.com or not .com. Just Exhaust State Comics. Just look that up on YouTube. Yeah. Okay. I don't have the domain yet. Now somebody's going to usurp it from me really quick.
Yeah.
Oops. But also, I'll say Happy Mother's Day to my mom in case she watches this later. And yeah, just big thanks to you for having me on. Really enjoyed it. The content you're putting out on your channel, I think is great. These your how-to videos and your conversation stuff, man, those are great. Like the how to get into collecting comics. That was a great episode of this. So really enjoy what you're doing over there. Really thankful for you having me on today.
Well, thank you, and it's been a pleasure as well, and great content for yourself too. And thank you for having me as part of the website, comicbook.com. It's been a pleasure. Still new, but so far so good, right? So
yeah, man, you're doing a great job. Definitely, everybody watching, go over to comicbook.com, and you will find things from Jesse all over the site. He's doing a great job.
Getting a little crazy with submitting stuff. Just excited about it. But
more content. The more content, the better. That's pretty much how I go.
Exactly right. Like you were saying, putting it out there, being relevant, and just getting out the material to people is important. So very cool. But that's going to do it for us today. This is Jesse here with JLSComics. Thank you for watching the second comic conversation, comic book websites. Thanks for joining us. And we will see you in the future. This is Jesse here with JLSComics and Justin with Exile State, comicbook.com, signing off.
Have a good one.